As the news media gears up for its latest and greatest scandal, we are once again contemplating the phenomenon of fake news. What the fuck is fake news? Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Izzy and this is the Izzy Nobry Show. Assuming you just rolled out of bed, here's what happened. BuzzFeed, this bastion of journalistic integrity, just published a document that is supposedly unverifiable from a source that we don't know. We have no idea where this came from, but this is basically a document consisting of a bunch of diplomatic cables about Trump's involvement with Russia. Some of it is the stuff we've heard before. Trump's alleged financial involvement with some elements that are cozy to Putin. That is not what grabbed the headlines. The most salacious part of this document describes how, once in Moscow, Trump rented out a presidential suite he knew President Obama and his wife would later stay at. He then hired Russian prostitutes to perform a piss show on that bed. According to the document, because he was being closely followed and handled and groomed by Russian interests, the room was bugged with cameras and microphones and everything. So according to this document, somewhere there's a video of Trump watching prostitutes pissing on a bed to spite President Obama. Now this is so outrageous that even the mainstream media is calling BuzzFeed out on this. The several outlets and even the intelligence community in the United States have had access to this document and had briefed Trump and Obama on it, and for obvious reasons nobody commented on it because it's just salacious internet gossip basically. There's no verifiable evidence to any of this. You cannot, there's nothing to it. It's just a piece of paper saying a bunch of shit that nobody can double check. BuzzFeed, for some crazy reason, thought that this was newsworthy and decided to run the story, which only fuels people's distrust of the mainstream media. Now, even the mainstream media has come out and criticized BuzzFeed for this, which goes to show how outrageous it is, how irresponsible it is to publish this. This will only help the narrative of the people in the alternative media that the mainstream media cannot be trusted at all. Now, here's the thing about this whole fake news phenomenon. Fake news is the epithet that mainstream media gave to alternative news media to delegitimize their angle, their view, what they're reporting. To basically brush it all under the conspiracy theory rug. And I'll give you that, a lot of the people involved in the alternative news media are really conspiracy theory-y. Like Alex Jones, for instance. Or Stefan Molyneux. So there is definitely credence to that, but the problem is that mainstream media should not be throwing fake news stones when they live in a glass house. There has been a lot of quote-unquote fake news disseminated by mainstream media because all media has an angle, has a bias. Complete impartiality is basically impossible. We should try for that, at least, but it's kind of impossible. Of course, alternative media shot back at mainstream media, calling their reporting fake news, and recently mainstream media has even gone as far as to retire the fake news term because I guess they realized that to go around in this news ecosystem pointing at people and saying that they are biased, that they are not doing a good job at reporting things, it was probably not the best idea. Now here's what I think. I follow a lot of mainstream news and a lot of alternative news. There's a lot of people who even go as far as to call fake news anything that they disagree with, anything that disproves something that they believe in. It's a mess. It's impossible to know who to trust anymore, which I guess it's really an ageless truism that you couldn't trust anybody, but in this age of social media and alternative news sites and mainstream media showing themselves to be more biased than ever before, it's true. You can't and shouldn't trust anyone. You should do your due diligence and look up different news sources and try to get a better understanding of what's going on around you. That is the silver lining of this whole fake news thing. Because while it's kind of scary that it's impossible to trust anybody, we should already know that and do our part in trying to be well informed. So what I do personally is I follow up a lot of both mainstream media outlets and the so-called alternative media, and I take both with a grain of salt. I will say that mainstream media, because they have a better way to fact check things, and they generally at least try to hide their biases a little bit more than some elements in the alternative media, they still have those biases and they still run unverifiable stuff as news. So it's good to look at the establishment, but at the same time, it's interesting at least to see what the alternative news take is. There's a lot of elements in the alternative news, let's say, system that I find just cringeworthy. Like Stefan Molyneux, Alex Jones, Mike Cernovich, these guys. It's these guys that make me look at mainstream media and say, no, definitely these guys know what's going on. These guys are a bunch of crackpots. But then the mainstream media runs bullshit stories that make me think, let's at least listen to what they're saying before we completely disregard. You know, like they say, a broken clock is right twice a day. So that's the situation I find myself in. I try to listen to both sides, compare and contrast, get as much information as I can to get a better picture of what the fuck is going on around me. And that, like I said, is the silver lining of this whole fake news controversy. What I'm trying to say here is, keep your eyes open, get information from both sides. Try to filter out the bullshit a little bit. Try to go for things that are verifiable, things that have actually on the record, things that are well sourced. But one thing is for sure, this current distrust of mainstream media is not entirely without merit. These guys on the alternative news spectrum, let's say, they're not, I mean, they're kind of crackpots. They are kind of crazy. They do. Have you listened to Alex Jones? I listen to his podcast straight up for comedy.
Charging into a goblin's nest, kissing goblins, goblin vomit, catch him in bed with a goblin.
But even these crazy people, from time to time, they let out like a nugget of, okay, this is kind of true. Like, they did drop the ball here. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Either side, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't fully believe the mainstream media because they do have an agenda. They have money men behind them. And also, don't go deep into the rabbit hole of alternative news media because before you realize, you're going to be buying male vitality pills and water filters and whatever the fuck Alex Jones happens to be selling this week.
Goblin vomit.
But that's all the time I have. I'm very curious what the split is among the people who watch my show on this whole fake media thing. Like, if there's more people who lean towards the mainstream media side of things, if there's more people who lean towards the alternative media side of things. I suppose technically I am kind of alternative media as well because I'm not mainstream media, and I do report on what I see and I give my impressions. I'm a commentator at least, so I guess in a way I'm sort of alternative media. Maybe not on this channel because nobody fucking knows who I am, but on my Brazilian channel where I have a bigger audience, I imagine some people would consider me alternative media. So yeah, I'm very curious what the split is on this issue. That is all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy and I'm done. Fuck! Seriously, I don't care how you feel about the guy's politics. Listen to Alex Jones. That shit is objectively funny.